have to repeat my first name to you, do I? Let me begin by telling you a story. I would like to ask you a question, but before I ask you the question, I would like to give you the scenario that the question is based on. And I'll pinpoint a couple of people to give me an answer to the question, and we continue with the story. Imagine you just completed your high school. Your parents decided, for one reason or another, you're going to the United States. So you prepare yourself with excitement, possibility, the unknown, and with $50 in your pocket, you're set on the plane. Don't you think my parents were generous? You arrive in the United States, immediately you'll find a job because you want to make your dream of going to college a reality. So you get a job. 6 months later, you get informed that you have to file for your taxes. And in addition, there may be a possibility that you will get some of your money back from the government. Where you come from, that's a new concept. The government takes your money. They don't give it back. So you have to go to a tax preparer. You make an appointment. You go there. And you're trying to chit-chat because you have been told that Americans like to chit-chat, and they're very friendly. In the middle of the chit-chat, your tax preparer says, "Get out of here." What would be your response? Let me see. The guy is amazed. Can you tell me what would be your response? Please, I can't see your name because of the light. The one who's touching the badge. You're going like this. No, right here. I'd say yeah. Okay, thank you, Davis. Ma'am over there with the brown or burgundy sweater? Yes. Yes. Very good. Indeed, this was a true story. 24 years ago, when I moved to the United States, that's exactly what happened to me. Let me tell you what my response was. I started bawling out to the door. I grew up in the high-altitude city of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and running was my natural reaction. To this day, I still run. This experience made a long-lasting impression to me, the importance and understanding of a language. Now, let me take you a little bit further in time. As I was completing my college, my childhood friend, now Dr. Sam Kassane, he came to the United States to study for his PhD through India, Turkey. He's a world traveler. He did his bachelor in India, master's in Turkey. And we connected. It was like we were never apart. We didn't see each other for 10 years, but we were never apart. So we started talking regular communication. And there were two things. One, I finished my college and I started working for that small company called HP. So every meeting that I went to, I was experiencing something that you guys are talking about today. There was no mention of Africa in the business meetings. And that really made me think about the perception that is being created about Africa. Then, at the same time, there was something that is happening in Ethiopia that really frustrated for both of us. We kept on talking about over the phone. He was in Virginia, and I was in at Rutgers University, and then Midwest. So we decided one day in our regular phone conversation to take out the negativity out of our conversation. We promised to each other, we will focus on the things that we can influence or we can solve. As a result of that, we started the first Ethiopian diaspora email service. Back then, there was no World Wide Web. the latest technology was bulletin board, for those of you who are old enough to remember. And we created a listserv. We found some Ethiopian guy whom I knew from Ethiopia. He let us use Sun Microsystem server, and the community started. Very important projects that we did. One, we introduced email to Ethiopia through Addis Ababa University, the largest university back then, by using the existing structure of FIDONet through ECA, Economic Commission for Africa. We sent hundreds of modems by raising funds. The second thing that we did, we hosted the first online paper presentation. And people presented papers. That paper was emailed for the distribution list, and people asked questions and so forth. One of the topics that came up was Unicode, about Unicode. We didn't understand what Unicode was. Unicode is a standardized way of encoding text and symbols for the world languages. And as we investigated more, we realized that there is Unicode Consortium that recommends the standardization submitted by governments and other bodies. So immediately we assembled computer scientists, linguists, engineers ourselves, and created the Unicode for the Ethiopian language, Ethiopic. Now, 10 years later, then we went about our own business. I was focused on telecommunication. I moved around the country. My friend became a PhD, became a professor. 10 years later, both of us went through the dot-com and the dot-boom. Some of you from the United States and around the world, you've heard about the dot-com. The dot-boom really made us ponder about the possibilities. Normally, when you face a challenge, that's when you start thinking. So, again, we went back to the work that we did 10 years ago, the Unicode and the importance of the language. We wanted to put one of the ancient languages of the world in the forefront of technology. We did the work, we did the thinking. It took us a couple of years. Then we came up with Eureka, our success story. We're able to come up with a way of rendering a font on a cell phone. And we successfully mapped 345 characters to 12 keypads. It's not impossible, but difficult to do. That created more questions than answers for us. Now we created the thing. What are we going to do? Is it extendable to other languages? What kind of mechanism we're going to use to transmit the thing? So we have to do research. Part of the research was the market research as well. A lot of you have talked about Africa being ignored and all so forth, so forth. But look at the numbers. This is a journey that mobile technology has taken from 2002, forecast for 2011. There are about 2.5 billion subscribers around the world. It's expected that that number will reach about 5 billion. Let me break it down for you by a region. Mobile subscribers, North America, 2005, 219 million. 2011, 294 million. Register the numbers. Europe, 669 million. By 2011, 679 million. Latin America, 220 million. 2011, 478 million. Middle East, 43 million. 2011, 123 million. Africa, 113 million. 2011, 478 million forecast. Okay? Africa today is experiencing the highest growth rate on mobile subscription. So something is happening. If you look at the developed world and the developing world, you will see two things. One, Africa is an untapped market. Two, the Europeans and the North Americans, they have to come up with some strategy to continue to grow. By the way, I forgot Asia. 836 million, 2011, 2 billion. It's still growing. Number-wise, they're the highest growth. So, the North Americans, the Europeans, and the Asians have to come up with a strategy to continue the growth. And the strategy that they come up with, Russell talked about ARPU, average revenue per user. They have to start value-added services. The value-added services are text messaging, multimedia service, or premium messaging, and etc. So, if you look at this map, it takes me back to the repeated theme that we heard today. If you look at it, this is called globalization. Thomas Friedman, in his book titled The World is Flat, he talked about today's globalization as a third generation. It is globalization of individuals with skill sets. That helps us to look at the world as a single market, as a single entity. And this is driven, I'll quote the book, this globalization is driven by diverse individuals who are non-white and who are not in North America. That means by people like you and me. The emergence of technology has brought us together and helped us to learn about each other as quickly as lightning. The world has shrunk. But if you look at it, there's something, I couldn't get the whole map, but there's something missing about Africa. It's not in the map. Look at all that volume. There's a lot of money going on between Middle East, India, Asia, China. When you look at this, I go back to the map that we have seen earlier again and again and again. Let me tell you, when I first started my sales career at HP, my district manager, I took a pay cut, moved to Silicon Valley, and my district manager gave me a 5 years customer history. About 250 customers on that spreadsheet. Let me tell you, 95% of them were zeros. I was like, I got a pay cut and zeros. And I went back to his office. I said, what the hell is going on? Is this true? I thought he made some mistake, in the spreadsheet. So it was true. And I was forced to look at it as an opportunity. And I was very successful doing the task that I was given. So what we need to look at is there is a lot of opportunity there. A lot of things can be done over there. That's the thinking and the mentality that we need to have. So with all the research that we have done, with everything that went on, there was another eureka moment. One, how are we going to transmit this technology to the users, to the individuals? I'm proud to say my partner and I were given the authority to perform the marriage between Web 0.20 and the wireless technology that we have. We created IP-based messaging. What does that mean? And what are the problems that we're solving? Because we have to pitch to the VCs, and they have to understand. They have to understand the real thing. One, the non-Roman script characters, localization is done in local geographic location. What does that mean? If you go to China and you buy a phone in China, it is localized. You'll see on the keypad the Chinese characters, symbols, and you can create a Chinese message in Chinese and send it in China only. If you go outside of China, you cannot do that. So we solved that problem. How? You download our software on your cell phone. It doesn't matter what the cell phone is. You download it, and you'll be able to compose, edit, send, receive messages in Chinese. That's exactly what we did for the Ethiopic characters. Okay? Two, the same thing with Hindi character for major Indian languages. And we also learned that the Ethiopian language and the Hindi, the Arabic, the Hebrew, they are all called, they are grouped in Abugida languages or symbolic writing system. Okay? And we actually did some cool things with the Hindi characters to create to create the package that we did. So with IP messaging and with the font rendering, you are able to send and receive messages instantly in your own native language or language of preference, any place, any time, any location. And the complete package, the technology overview looks like this. You download first the applet onto your cell phone, and the other person will download the applet on the cell phone. If you look at it, the first person is downloading the Chinese character set into the English cell phone. And we have come up with a scheme of IP messaging to do that. You can also do text messaging and MMS from the PC. Let me tell you how we created that, why we created that. The Ethiopian government, about a year and a half ago, decided to close text messaging for political reasons, and we could not reach our customers. So we created Ethiopic character messenger that people can chat using their own language and also be able to send a text message to us and to everybody else outside of Ethiopia using their own characters. So we see and hear and experience a lot of problems, but they're not problems. They are opportunities to be creative and do the things that we do to move forward. Let me give you one example of the application from a development perspective. This shows you what a farmer goes through coffee farmer goes through to get the coffee product into the market. Look at the price that they're getting paid for, and look at what the price is for Starbucks. I have no problem Starbucks making money, but I want to empower the farmer to make an informed decision based on receiving the information of market right there and then, so that they can negotiate their pricing with the information that they have, okay? And the other thing is, the business application that we do is that the Google of the world can benefit from the product that we have. There is no reason a business person in Africa or elsewhere cannot advertise their product through the cell phone somewhere else in Asia for the same niche target market. Okay? Now, a lot of things are talked about, and I want to take this opportunity, I have a few minutes, if you may, to use this. Yes, 1 minute. We have heard poverty, poverty, poverty. And if I ask you what the meaning of poverty is, it's a negative connotation. But we want to define it today, here and now. Because in sales, we say the most important sales is the second sale. Why? The first sale is selling it to yourself. The second sale is to the customer. So I believe in that. I want you to believe in that. And I want you to get up from your seat and repeat after me, please. Please. P stands for possibilities. O stands for opportunity. V stands for validation of our ideas. E stands for our enthusiasm to do things. R stands for our resilience during a challenging time. T stands for trust. Y stands for yes. Thank you.
Ted, so you reserved the greatest part of your talk for that last minute. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
And your story, get out of here. So what happened? You started running for the door and...
The tax preparer screamed out loud, so I had to get back.
She just meant you'd done something great.
Oh, yeah, you know, I forgot to tell you. I didn't understand, get out of here means, is that true? That's what it meant.
And is that true?
Yeah,
it's true.
It is true.
All right, thank you, Ted.
Thank you.